Welcome to Season 8 of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us. We're in Season 8 and we still have a lot to talk about. Radio Free 501c is supported by USAE News, the weekly community newspaper of Association CVBs and hotels. Learn more at usaenews.com. This week we are welcoming first-time guest Enid-Mai Jones. She's a consultant at EMJ Consulting, and we're here to talk about the belonging bubble. It burst. It's Monday, May 4th, 2026. Welcome to episode 327. In the words of one of my favorite musicals, Camelot, it's May. It's May, the lovely month of May. So I hope you're having a wonderful springtime here on planet Earth, wherever you may be today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us here at Radio Free 501c for our first episode of the month of May. And I am so pleased to be welcoming a first-time guest who I have known for quite a while. But before we get into introductions and our conversation, I want to introduce myself. Hello, I'm your host, Cecilia Sepp, and my company, Rogue Tulips Consulting, supports this podcast and brings it to you every week, along with our podcast partner, USAE News, the online newspaper about associations and convention visitor bureaus all around the country and sometimes the world. And we want to thank USAE News for being our podcast partner in 2026. And we want to thank them for giving all our podcast guests a complimentary subscription. So thank you, USAE News. And if you want to learn more about USAE News, go to their website, conveniently named usaenews.com. and get yourself a subscription. It's worth reading. So this week, we have a great follow-up to last week's episode. Last week, we were talking about the strategy hiding in member data. This week, we're talking about the belonging bubble and how it has burst, and this directly relates to membership. This is a really different way of applying all that data that we've collected. And as I mentioned, I have a friend of mine here who's a first-time guest, Enid-Mai Jones. Enid-Mai, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Enid-Mai Jones. I have 20 years plus in association management, and currently I am a consultant, EMJ Consulting and Insightful AI Strategies. We partner and collaborate with nonprofits and associations in non-dues generation, education, and implementation of AI.
Those are the three areas we're all talking about in the profession right now. So you are right on target with what you're helping your clients with. But today we're here to talk about your paper on the belonging bubble and how it has burst. So could you tell us a little bit about what you mean by the belonging bubble?
Well, as we all know, when we all were entering the profession, the thing to do was to join an association.
Mhm.
But times are changing with the availability of communities, even with AI. People are rethinking what it is and what it means to belong to the association. A lot of people I've talked to lately are saying that, oh, I belong to my association because my employer pays for it. But I'm not getting anything out of it, because associations really, we need to rethink how we think about members. We need to rethink the value proposition, which is normally that 1 week or weekend of annual meeting. People are tired of that. People want I'm sorry to say it, but it's the same circle now I've seen for 20 years. More and more people are looking for a return on their investment. As the economy switched and changed, employers are looking to see where the money is going. And so they want to see direct correlation between these memberships, skill building, and intentional, what can I learn to use on Monday morning?
So many ideas are coming into my mind as you're saying all these things. What is your response to people who say, well, you get out of your membership what you put into it?
Yeah, that's a good segue. Not answering the question, of what it is that you're offering me. You get what you put into it. But we don't ask the butcher we don't go to the grocery store and pay for chicken and say, I'm gonna give the chicken that I put into the store. We expect to get the chicken
Right.
healthy and fresh. Okay? So when I pay for my membership, I expect fresh ideas. I expect to be able, especially when we look at the new generation and incoming career entry level and middle manage middle managers.
Mhm.
We are not training those people anymore for success.
Mhm.
We are not providing skills that are specifically related to competency. You find that sometimes more maybe in professions that have licensures, where license is correlated directly to education that the association is being provided. You find that more maybe in those associations, but in most other associations where there's no direct correlation, we continue to do the same old theoretical and strategy at every conference, and everybody walk out of there, and 2 minutes later they cannot remember what they even heard in there, because there's nothing that's applied. There's nothing that anyone can go to work on Monday and say, I specifically learned a framework that I can use to elevate my next education, which will improve someone's ability to do the work, directly do the work. And within 6 months, we will see an actual growth and change in what that person does.
Mhm.
You hardly, we don't see that at conference.
So we're not getting that skills training. And I'm with you on that. I think a lot of what we do is theoretical. And I think a lot of what we still do at conferences is talking at each other instead of actually doing more interactive things. People say, oh, is this going to be interactive? And that's like using ASAE's annual meeting. For example, if you do a submission for a session, they say, how will you engage the audience? How will you get people involved in the activity? And yet, so many of the sessions are still people sitting there listening to somebody talk. And that's not how adults learn. We learn by talking to each other and sharing our knowledge and building on each other's knowledge. So we have to do interactive things, maybe role playing in order to get adults to do something. And you know what you're making me think of, Enid-Mai, is I recently had eye surgery earlier this year. And my eye surgeon is very senior within his specialty, and he does a lot of presentations at conferences for other eye doctors and eye surgeons. And he talked about wet labs a lot. And a wet lab in medical training is you actually get in and do the skill, like you actually do the thing. So, like, if he's doing a wet lab, he's teaching you how to, cut somebody's eye open and take the cataract out and put in a new lens, maybe, or a new way of doing a treatment. But the point being, one of the residents on his team that worked with me also was excited about going to a conference. He came back from the conference by the time of my next appointment, and he was like, oh yeah, I did some wet labs. It was great. I learned some new things because it's very hands-on. We see this a lot in associations that serve veterinarians as well, because they have to actually learn it. They actually have to do it. So whether it's a simulation or they're actually doing it on I don't know, a dummy or something, I guess. Oh my gosh, I hope they're not practicing on real people or animals, but you know what I mean. We have to do that, right? So it's like maybe what we need to do is more skill labs where people hands on, you do work with your clients on artificial intelligence. Maybe you lead a skills lab where people bring their own laptop and they learn how to use Chat GPT or some other tool. Is that where you think we should be going?
Definitely. I hear people say all the time, oh, we use AI at work. But what I'm finding out is that you may use it to write some emails. Somebody in marketing may use it to generate some images. But no one is using it again for a return on the investment, meaning we're using it so that we are cutting down the time it takes to do work so that employees get the work back, get the get the time back, because we know how it is in associations. 5 people doing the job of 20 people.
Yes.
Yes. Or we are using it to generate more income. So why are we not using this to personalize either educational path or what people do at conference? So when you go to conference, I know a lot of people are promoted in, for example, education. They're promoted from manager to director, and they've never done a budget. Never done a budget. And the expectation is this person is going to have to do a budget. So why aren't we doing a skill lab at conference for new people who have been promoted to directors who need to understand nonprofit budgeting?
Mhm.
But then we expect those same people to sit down for the CAE exam and understand the 2 or 3 questions on the CAE exam that comes up on budgeting. But nobody teaches that. Nobody teaches you how to read a P&L or to do a budget. And your couple of first events may fail, or there may be a repeat from what's already there with no new ideas, because you've been handed something that nobody actually taught you to do.
Mm-hmm. That is such a good point because creating a budget for your department or your program that you manage at your association is completely different than doing like your home budget, where you're budgeting for groceries and things. You have a really good idea of how much money you have coming in and what you have to spend it. But when you're doing budgets that also need to be in line with a strategic plan, what we're looking at, and you mentioned the CAE exam, and that gets us thinking like a chief staff executive, and we have to refine that thinking. And so most people who take the test are not currently and have not been before a chief staff executive. I know that was my situation when I took it many years ago. And I think you're right, because the books that they recommend don't necessarily teach you that either. Now, I endorse the principles in association management, which I screw the name up. I call it the PPAM. It's like, but that book is our book, but it is very theoretical and strategic, which is what it needs to be for CSEs. But you're right, it doesn't actually teach you, how do I present this budget to the board of directors? If I do want to get into the C-suite or a senior level position, how do I manage staff? What are the things I need to know to manage staff? I mean, I know the first time I had to manage somebody, nobody taught me how to do it, and you have to figure it out by trial and error. So we used to do tracks at conferences, depending on what you were interested in. And for some reason, we got away from that. Do you think it's time to bring that back so that we can have those skills labs for the younger generations?
So, in some way or form, whether we do a pre-conference and have that, because the strategic teaching and theoretical, it still has its place. but we really need to rethink how we educate people.
Mm-hmm.
We are not educating based on competency. We are not educating based on career path. We are not we are not giving people the skills they need to succeed. So when you think about the fact that an employer is paying for it, but what happens when that individual maybe goes to a smaller organization that doesn't pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
They have to really uh, reassess whether or not it's worth renewing that membership in whatever association it is, if they feel like maybe I'm really not getting a return on my investment, because there's so much free education now on the web and the internet. YouTube is the best university around. You can learn just about anything on YouTube, or you can ask an AI tool from Claude to ChatGTP. It can walk you step by step in doing just about anything if you know how to prompt write, which I'm finding out a lot of people do not know how to prompt write, so they really don't get anything. It becomes more of a Google search than it is a collaborative effort.
Right.
So, and like you said, communities are all over, from school platform to hotspot to, I mean, you name it, to Facebook. Communities are all over. So again, unless associations can really show specifically what is your return on investment, what it is that you're gaining here that you cannot gain over there, I am concerned. I am concerned that when our generation retires, the new generation that's coming up may decide it's not worth it
Mm-hmm.
at all.
And they may find better resources than what we're presenting right now. And going back to the concept of, well, when I go to the grocery store, I don't bring my own chicken to buy. And what are you getting out of your membership? And that is the knee-jerk response I hear from people. When you say, well, what do I get out of membership? Well, you get out of it what you put into it. Then why am I paying for it? Shouldn't they be paying me if I have to do all the work to get something out of it? Where are the resources that I should be able to access? Why are we charging rates that are, I think, too high? I think a lot of associations, they copy ASAE and they charge over $300 a year, and then you have to pay for everything else. And this is something I've been calling for years, the Costco model, which I think is hilarious. It's like you're paying a store to go in and spend money.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, it's like, and kudos to whoever came up with that concept and making people think it's a good idea. But that's the concept we have at associations right now. We have a membership dues rate that actually becomes an obstacle to people joining if they need to pay out of pocket. Like maybe they want to join, but they can't afford it because their boss used to buy a group membership maybe and they got that, but now they're somewhere else. Like you said, how do we do that? Why are dues an obstacle if you've got to pay for everything else? So you join an association, you pay, $300 to join, and then you have to pay to go to the conference, and you have to pay to buy a book, and you have to pay to take the certification exam, and you have to pay to renew your certification when you pass the exam, and. So why aren't dues $10 a month? Because if I'm only going to get out of it what I put into it, and that means I have to invest time and energy, then where is that equation coming out to my advantage? And I think that's supporting your thesis that the belonging bubble has burst.
Exactly. And don't forget also what you put in there, meaning you have to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm paying you to volunteer. It's like when you go to the grocery store. when you go to the grocery store and you buy your grocery, at the end, it says, do you want to round up? Now, why would I give the grocery store my money so they can go look generous to the public off of my money? It doesn't make sense. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. There's no rationale behind, I'm going to give you my money so you can look generous. What does that leave me when every year the prices go up?
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah.
it's a crazy phenomenon as we think about it, and unless I believe, and I hope I'm proving wrong, that we will continue to see decline in membership if somehow associations, and there are a few of them who have rethought their membership models. But until we can actually rethink our membership model, I'm afraid that we will continue to lose members. And you know, and for someone who been a part of this community for so long, it will be sad to see that happen. But we cannot continue. It's like we hold on to that shoe, even if our big toe is coming out of it or whatever, we hold on to that shoe every which way. We do
You know,
it with programs. We do it with programs. We don't want to sunset programs, even if they are not relevant anymore. We don't want to think about new ways, because now membership dues, because they're falling, non-dues revenue has to go up. There's an article in today's Association Now. The article is good, but nowhere in there did the author talk about how AI can really impact non-dues revenue to the extent that it should have been. It should have been almost half that article, because AI is here to stay, like it or not. It is here to stay. We got to figure out how we're going to use it to our advantage, use it ethically, use it without taking the human. I'm a strong proponent of not taking the human out of this equation, but use it also to give people back the time. People are burned out. That's a whole nother story, a whole nother
right.
episode on there. People are burned out. People are tired.
Right. Because burnout is real. But that would be a whole other episode. You're right. We'd have to do that. But I have a saying, we are all the architects of our own destruction. So if we end up in a terrible situation, whether intentionally or not, it's because of our decisions and our choices. Now, we don't always see ahead 5 steps as to where these choices might lead us, but you're absolutely right. I sadly, I am kind of laughing at some of these comments, because if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Because I've been seeing this trend over at least the last 7 years of the decline of the association model. And too much of it now is becoming about non-dues revenue and not delivering the service for that profession or that industry. And I think trade associations that serve an industry are a little bit better off, because one of their main objectives is advocacy and influencing decision makers. And they do that pretty well. And that's really why an industry member will join a trade association. They can't be in Washington, D.C. or at the state capitol all the time. So by joining forces with other people in the industry, that can happen. But when you're looking at professional associations, for things outside of, let's say, outside of healthcare, healthcare has a lot of wet labs. Where are our wet labs? What does that do for us? How are we addressing that workforce issue, not just for our members, but for our own profession of association management? And how are we going to breach the schism in nonprofit management before it's too late? Because I often hear people, and I think this is a problem in the profession itself. I hear people in the profession refer to associations separately from nonprofits.
Mhm.
We're all nonprofits. It's what kind of nonprofit you are that informs how you're going to build your structure, how you're going to serve people in your community, and what you're going to do moving forward. And there's different rules depending on if you're a C3, for example, or a C6 when it comes to lobbying and things like that. But we have this huge schism in a profession that's one profession. So, how can we help each other preserve our profession, which is falling apart? In a lot of ways, sadly, because we won't let go. You've made that great point, Enid-Mai. You need to sunset things. We won't let go of the way we do things. We don't change what needs to change. Just because something used to work 20 years ago doesn't mean it's still going to work. The models for interaction, the chapter model. I love chapters. I came up as a CRP. I love chapters, but the chapter model needs to go in a lot of ways. People don't need to interact. We don't need mini me's anymore. I talk about this a lot in my book. We don't need mini me's across the country or across the world. What we need are ways for people locally to meet each other and access each other for sharing of knowledge, building relationships, moving our careers forward in that level. But then where is the association going to bring in these skill-based sessions? Like, how do I write an email? We're talking a lot about young people that grew up with mobile technology and writing K instead of OK. They won't even write OK. It's like,
Yeah,
come on. And then you're going to send them in to do a board presentation unprepared. We need to address that.
exactly. And one of the things that I also see is that the model is also silos. So there's membership, there's education, there's marketing, and maybe marketing and education may work together, but then none of those departments come back to that strategic plan. That's this thing I hear.
Mhm.
None of those departments measure what it is that they have achieved against the overall strategic plan. So what that does is, how do we now understand what does it take per department to function and work right? I am not talking about, oh, so we had a successful annual meeting, so education has achieved its goals. So we had a successful meeting, but how does that play into the long term of this organization? How does it influence membership? So it should be a cyclical thing. You know,
Mhm.
we that's the ecosystem we exist in, and everything should come passing through that strategic plan. So when you look at your hiring of your new hires and your lower your entry level folks, you also have to plan on how are we going to grow those people, because that's another thing and I could be wrong, is the expectation is that you're going to stay. The expectation is that no, that you're going to train that person to do the best that they can do for you when they are there, so you get the most, but knowing that they're going to leave, because again, that may not be a path for growth within that organization. But then maybe, but that doesn't mean you're not supposed to train that person, because if that person is at the optimum, you then become your optimum. So you have to train the people who say K instead of okay. That no, you have to write okay, because that is how business work. This is how business work. We are a business. We may be tax exempt. We may be categorized nonprofit, but we are a business. And we have to be in the black and not in the red. And in order to do so, we have to do certain things. We have to say okay instead of K. We have to understand P&L. We have to understand how to do a budget. We have to understand that when you're doing a conference and your one of the things that can get you is your room attrition. And when that hotel says, oh, don't worry about it, we will put it back in circulation. No, it's don't worry about it for now, but you're still ultimately responsible for that. But we bring in young meeting planners and we don't even teach them the basics of the language in which they're operating. We don't. Their managers can't in most times because they themselves have 3 or 4 different things they are doing. So again, we come back to what it is that we are providing people for their membership.
Okay, I have to say, you're really scaring the hell out of me right now, Enid-Mai, because it's like you're saying all these things, and I'm like, oh my God, that's right. It's true. We say we don't have time to do the things we need to do, and yet we always have time to clean up the mess we make, right? It's like people will say we don't have time for board training, but you always have time to clean up all the problems that end up getting developed because your board's not quite sure of what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. We do it with staff, oh, just go do this thing with no direction or making sure they understand it. You're absolutely right. You have to take the time to let people learn new things and come back and do it. Like when I was a chief staff executive, I would if I saw a good webinar, interesting webinar, I would ask a staff member to go that would be interested in it and say, go to this webinar, learn something, and then come back and share it with the rest of us. Because that's how grown-ups learn. we get knowledge, we share it with other people, we act on it. We have to have that outcome. Like, what is the action that's going to come out of this? And we need the action for training the next generations, not just in the industries we serve, but in our own profession, is becoming a real crisis situation, I think, in a lot of ways. Workforce is not just an issue we're talking about for our association members or trade association members. We're looking at it for our own profession and nonprofit management, no matter what kind of nonprofit it is. Who are we going to be hiring? Who's going to be mentoring people? Do we have mentoring programs? Do we have internship programs? Are we making it clear what it means to work in a 501c organization instead of a for-profit corporation? What does it mean? Do you understand it? There's a lack of information out there in the public as well, because while we are businesses, we have a unique purpose in society. We're business with purpose. We're business with meaning.
Mission driven, yeah.
So, and I don't like it when people say mission driven. All organizations are mission driven. It just depends what your mission is. So some people's mission is to make money, and that's fine, So we need to really talk about that. I think you've raised so many good points because I agree with you. The belonging bubble has burst because it's not just being part of a community. We can find communities in a lot of places, but if we want people to join our associations, then they need to see that value. And it's like, I don't want to bring my own chicken to the market and pay for it. I love that. That's great. So, well, Enid-Mai, this has been just a fantastic conversation. I've had a lot of fun talking with you about this, and I think the audience is going to get a lot of food for thought. So I like to ask my guest, what is the one thought you would like the audience to take away today? And how can they get in touch with you if they'd like to talk more?
So what I would like for us all as association professionals to think about is what are some of the practical steps we can take right now? Baby steps. what is the most pressing thing or the most pinpoint that you can address right now when it comes to your membership and your overall value proposition? One thing. And I'm sure somewhere in your data is there. And that's another thing. We have tons of data. Use AI to help you crunch that data. And somewhere in there, you will find that low hanging fruit that you can start from in rethinking your value proposition. Or else it will catch up. As I said, I hope I'm wrong, but it's going to catch up with us sooner or later. And my website is available. If anyone want to have a quick conversation on this, is emjconsulting.com, and I am available to talk more on how associations can rethink their value proposition, rethink their mean non-dues generator, their education, and how also AI can help them in so doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And again, I mentioned this earlier in the episode. Those are all the areas we're all thinking about right now. So you are right where you need to be to help the whole profession. So thank you again for joining me, Enid-Mai.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Cecilia. Anytime, anywhere. We have always
Yeah, well,
conversations.
I have a feeling you're going to be back. So we can talk more. So, but we have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So if you haven't subscribed yet or followed us on your favorite service, please do that. We're on Spotify and YouTube and several others, but please check us out there or on Apple Podcast as well. Sign up and don't miss any of these episodes. There's a reason we are well past 300 episodes, and that's because there's still a lot to talk about. So, speaking of the podcast, you can find this episode featuring Enid-Mai on our website, on our podcast page. If you just go to roguetulips.com, find our podcast page, you can share this episode with your friends and colleagues and check out our podcast episode library. If you are looking for education, we are wrapping up our spring session. We actually already did wrap up our spring session for CAE prep, but our ethics course is available throughout the year. And our adaptive leadership course through our Lead Forward initiative is also open for registration. And keep an eye out for our fall schedule. If you're getting ready for the CAE exam, we'll be offering our CAE prep course and our CAE Redux course again in the fall. So watch for news on that. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our services page and then let's have a conversation. We'd love to talk with you about how we can help. And finally, if you have not checked out our blog, you might want to sign up for our newsletter so you get notices about the blog posts, because frankly, I never know what I'm going to talk about. So you never know what ideas are going to pop up in the blog every week. So take a moment, check out our blog as well. So that's it for this week. And on behalf of Enid-Mai and myself, we'll see you next time. That's it for this week. I hope you really loved this episode as much as I did. Thanks for listening. Learn more about how our experience and knowledge at Rogue Tulips can give your organization the strategic edge to reach its goals. Check out our website at roguetulips.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can work together.